Welcome to the Flowerlounge, a place for conversations with wildly creative people and a little plant-loving wisdom to help you experience life in full bloom. I'm Katie Hess, flower alchemist and founder of LOTUSWEI, and I believe in a world where we're all living at our personal edge. Welcome to the second version of Moonshine on the Flowerlounge podcast. This is going to be a fun one. We just had a laughing fit right before jumping on. So new moon is Pisces, and thank goodness Kristina Wingeier, intuitive astrologer, is here to explain what is going to happen during this next wonderful lunar cycle.
All right, here we go. So thanks for having me, Katie. It's good to be here. And it's good to laugh, right? Laughter is good medicine. So as Katie mentioned, we're going to start out this lunar cycle with the new moon in Pisces, which is on the 17th of March for us. And that is, what day of the week is that? Do we know?
Saturday.
Okay, Saturday. Thank you. So the new moon in Pisces, you're probably all really familiar with this Pisces energy because as we're recording this episode, everything is in Pisces. It seems like we're in like serious Pisces territory. So we've been feeling into Pisces, even if we don't know we have.
Yay! I love Pisces.
Says the Pisces sun. And I'm the Pisces moon, so we've got that covered. We love Pisces and Pisces loves everyone. So, but like you've been feeling this energy in your life, whether you know you've been feeling it or not. And Pisces energy, it's a water sign. It's very spacious. It's very compassionate. It's very dreamy, a lot of artistry and like poetry and mysticism and dreaminess and all that it's so beautiful and it's so Piscean. And
okay, what's the dirt?
What's the dirt? Okay, so that's the new moon, right? That's the new moon. But the moon quickly moves out of Pisces right after the moon is new.
Wait. No, I mean, what's the dirt on Pisces?
Oh, the dirt?
I mean,
the dirt.
It's dreamy, mystical, but like...
It's boundarylessness and lacking form and hard to kind of like commit.
Form a sentence.
Yeah, form a sentence or find the body, It's like a little too ungrounded and a little too formless, a little too mergy sometimes. Like all Pisces need to learn about good, strong boundaries, to have containers. And actually, it's Virgo, which is the opposite of Pisces, that gives us that ability to like be discerning and have some boundaries and have some organization. So you're like moving between like complete spaciousness and like very, very organized. And that's the ground that we move on in that axis between Pisces and Virgo. So, anything extreme is extreme. So there's always dirt and there's always shadow, but there's even dirt and shadow on this new moon because we have this new moon in Pisces. It's so lovely, but quickly the moon kind of moves into Aries and on that same day, as well as just kind of like starting to set the tone for what's to come this lunar cycle, which is a lot more fire energy, because we're moving from this very watery Piscean season into a lot more fire with different planets, the sun going into Aries, Mercury and Venus are already in Aries, and Mars is also making a sign change into Capricorn, which is very kind of powerful and intense. So it's a dreamy Pisces new moon with a little bit of a like edge to it, I would say. So, it's really cool to dream into your dreams and the dream seeds and kind of allowing yourself over that weekend, I would think, space to just be and just explore and not have to necessarily, make a lot of plans or be super motivated. Like new moon time in general is kind of a quiet, restful energy because it's the moon is dark. You can't see the moon. And so I think it'll be a really good weekend to just soften. And if you're feeling any of that edginess, if that a little fire or a little just kind of like frustration or itchiness or anything like that, just to soften and use the tools that you have to kind of support that softening and that expansiveness into like all that is. Right. So like you can meditation is like a container for Pisces, right? It's like you sit and you meditate or you walk and you meditate and you're creating a container or a vehicle for the experience of tapping into something much bigger than you. So any kind of practices that support your spiritual practice, writing, especially like poetry or music and things like that, are going to feel really nice and supportive over that weekend, I would think.
You had said when we were talking about this before that it would be a potentially crunchy weekend, the new moon weekend. What makes you say
that crunchy? Well, because this whole, like, I'm looking at the chart right now. So, well, first of all, the sun and the moon are going to be conjunct Chiron, which is an asteroid that is identified as the wounded healer. And so in Pisces, sometimes that brings up uncomfortable feelings, or, you know, if you're already feeling low energy because of the new moon, that might be hard to navigate that, or just feel a little uncomfortable. A little bit of the pain body might come up. Also, the movement of Mars from Sagittarius into Capricorn is a big shift of energy. And because what's going to happen when Mars is in Capricorn, Mars is going to be there for quite some time, a couple of months, and is going to encounter Saturn and Pluto. So they're already kind of shifting that energy into like just heavier, more serious. They're not the funnest guys to hang around, Saturn and Pluto. They're not the life of the party. You know? And so it's just a little bit of a like, yeah, it's the new moon in Pisces, but it's the very end of Pisces, and the sun's going to move into Aries. So things are just kind of shifting, and shifting time is kind of uncomfortable sometimes to move from one thing to the next, you know?
Right. So it sounds like a transition time, like a good weekend to buy yourself flowers, get a massage, or do something for you. Right?
Oh yeah, totally. Take care. Yeah, do something for you, and just take it easy. Just don't make yourself work too hard. Like, it's a really good, new moons are always a really nice time. Like, first of all, like, always follow your body and what works for you. If you have a lot of energy, go run a marathon. You know, who am I to tell you not to run a marathon if you have a lot of energy? But if you're feeling tired and feeling like rejuvenating would be a good thing, this is a nice weekend for that.
Okay.
And new moons in general, it's just a more quieter time, a more yin time, right? More receptive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then we've got, after that, is that when the Mercury retrograde starts?
Yes, Mercury. Well, before the Mercury retrograde on the 20th.
Okay.
Okay, so many dates. And that is on a Tuesday. We're going to have spring equinox. And that means the sun's moving into Aries. So, you know, last lunar cycle, Mercury and Venus went into Aries. And then the sun's going into Aries. And Uranus is already there. So we're starting to have like an Aries party. Ooh. And, you know, Aries is the beginning of the zodiac, whereas Pisces is the end. So even that transition from Pisces kind of like all one cosmic collective consciousness into like, you know, starting a new project. Aries is very like pilot light, turn on the pilot light, like going from formlessness into like starting something new. So there's a big, get it going. So the sun's going to be moving into Aries, and Mercury and Venus have been in Aries, but then yes, Mercury is going to station retrograde on Thursday, the 22nd. And, you know, people freak out. It's very popular in astrology to talk about Mercury retrograde. And I mean, it's great. It's nice to bring astrology into more mainstream conversations, but it's really not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it happens a lot, y'all. So you should kind of get used to it. It happens like 3 or 4 times a year, right?
Right.
But in Aries, so like if you think about Mercury, which is about communication, and you think about Aries, like Aries style of communication is pretty like direct and pretty instinctual and kind of like blunt, I would say. And like when anything goes retrograde, it's not going direct, right? It's going backwards. So there's a review going on. So you might be finding that it's a little harder to be direct. It might get a little more confusing to be as direct, and might just be feeling a little frustrated about not being able to move things forward. Aries likes to move things forward and explore. And when Mercury is retrograding, it's a review and a revision and a revising over something that's already been kind of walked through, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I think about Aries, I think also sometimes about medical astrology, and that Aries rules the head. And I think about the planet Mars, which rules Aries. And I think about hot head and hot temper when people like in conversations or in, you know, getting kind of combative. Like, what do you think could be really supportive for somebody, maybe with an elixir to help cool things down and soften things and bring people more into their heart space, rather than when the energy is rising and the temperature, and you find that like heat under the collar, and then you're starting to like turn red, and like what could help soothe that for this Mercury retrograde?
Yeah, I mean, I always think infinite love just because it's full of rose and it's super cooling, and it's, about tending the heart and soothing the heart. We also have a new formula that just came out that's sort of like the 2.0 version of infinite love. That's, it's love, but it's also like, I don't know, I tend to think of infinite love as like the issues around love that you have, whereas fierce compassion is more like the issues around love that you don't know you have, like childhood stuff. Very, very, very powerful formula. And I feel like our culture, humanity, everyone today is just needing this formula. It just came out at such a great time. And it's all about being self compassionate and holding open, a space for yourself to see what arises and, allow the fire, and then allow the fire to like transform you from the inside out.
I love that. I think that's going to be such a good elixir. Well, okay. Truth is I have it and I love it, but like confession and just buy everything that you can, because it's all so delicious. All the scents and everything that come with this new formula are just amazing. I mean, it is 2.0. Like it's amazing, but I think it'd be really good for the Mercury retrograde, especially like, because it's like, ultimately like Aries is the child, and there is that like freshness and earnest, just like beginner's mindness of being able to see things in a new way. And so I do think that supporting the inner child, and like what you said, didn't you say something about child wounds? I think that's why I'm riffing on this, because also with Chiron in Pisces, and that, I was talking about that conjunction with the new moon, it's like some of the old pain comes up for healing. And so how nice to have tools that we don't have to necessarily have a conversation or go to therapy about it, although that could be totally supportive, but we can just also have these other tools to help soften us and help to be mending things. And I think it'd be really good for the Mercury retrograde.
Totally. And it brings in, especially this new fierce compassion, brings in this level of, I don't want to call it detachment, because it's not detachment, but it's a release of attachment or fixation or holding. And so it's like, being able to see something but not grasp onto it and not identify too so much with it that you can't let it go. It's like seeing the childhood stuff come up and then out, and then there's so much more fluidity there.
Oh yeah, that's great. I love that. And I think that word detachment is so tricky, because there is something, I think like what you just said about like not the not grasping, right? It's neither becoming too attached or, that's the too attached, but not like pushing it away and not even looking at it, but just letting it be, right? Just letting it be. Oh, such good timing. You've got skills that way, my friend. This formula you've created, and also with flower evolution. Like I think that was kind of the impetus of these conversations, because I feel like the elixirs that we're working with in that program are always right in line with the cosmic movement. So
do you want to talk about that now?
Sure.
Can we talk about wild pansy?
Yeah, we can.
I mean,
let's talk about it. I just started it today. I love it. Gracefulness. Oh yeah, we need that.
I mean, it's funny because it's called, another word for the flower is heart's ease. And so typically it's been known, like historically and traditionally in folklore, it's been known as like the flower that was used in love potions, and you'd put it on somebody's eyelids, and the first person they saw when they woke up, they would fall madly in love. Like,
watch out!
Silly things like this. But it's funny because the way that I interpret it in terms of a flower essence is that it's about coming out of your shell. So it's like unearthing those treasures inside of you that feel a little bit shy, that feel a little bit awkward, that are still like, just peeking up their head to be seen and feel more uninhibited. So it's not necessarily like only for people who are shy. It's for all of us who would have like something inside of us that we're a little bit shy about, or that we're exploring, like showing that to the world and being seen in a bigger way. So, I mean, I typically choose the flowers intuitively, but maybe there's a correlation astrology wise with being seen, or like a portion of yourself coming up to look at it or to share it with the world?
Yeah. Well, the North Node in Leo is really about, showing up from that heart space and really being brave enough to be yourself and value what you bring and show up. And Leo is very comfortable being seen. So we're all being invited to be seen more for what really lights up our hearts, right? That's been happening for a while, but the eclipses have been activating that. And we just had the eclipses activate the nodes really recently. And also just like thinking about Aries some more, again, like it's very courageous, and not in this like I'm so great kind of way, but like in like the way the fool in the tarot will just like step off that cliff, or the way that a kid will just go for something and explore something without feeling inhibited or without feeling stupid, right? It really is like Aries can be connected to even like from birth to age 7, and around age 7 is when we start to like, I don't know, like close down sometimes. I mean, some of us earlier, but like we get conditioned and we get kind of domesticated. And I think even in like the Catholic faith, when you're 7, you become morally responsible for your sins. Like, I think I'm not a Catholic, so I could totally be wrong, but there's something that happens at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Innocence is lost a little bit. And so that Aries is very fresh, very beginner's mind, right? Very just willing to do what sounds fun and not be too worried. And Aries, we've got we'll be having a lot going on there. We had the Mercury retrograde in Aries. The sun will be moving through there. Venus will be in Aries for a while. And then Uranus, which is an outer planet that moves quite slowly. It moves signs every 7 years, has been in Aries for the last 7 years, really inviting in an authenticity in a certain part of the natal charts for each of us, in a way of just being yourself and being seen and not worrying about if others are doing it that way or anything like that. And so this Mercury retrograde could be a nice kind of review of that area of your chart, kind of what Uranus has been moving through, because Uranus is actually moving signs in May, moving into Taurus. So a whole different part of your chart is going to get activated by Uranus. And I think this Mercury retrograde in this place where Uranus has been for such a long time is going to be a nice kind of review of that part of your life.
So what we'll do, if you all are listening and you're interested in knowing where Aries is located in your particular and specific natal chart, is we'll put a link in this podcast blog post so that you can click there to find out, pull your own report with where you were born and the time and the day, so that you can find out where Aries is in your chart.
Yeah, it's always good to know where it's nice to feel into the cosmic weather patterns. It's really a whole nother level when you're looking at your own chart and you just start to get familiar with that territory, and then start to know what's happening and how it affects you, and it can be really useful self-psychology. That's what I think is, understanding your natal chart is, or beginning to explore that cosmic mandala, is self-psychology.
I love that.
Yeah. So yay. So yay, Mercury retrograde. But really though, just, and all the usual things, just like prepare for it. So slow down, make space, don't try to rush, all the things that Mercury is connected with, which is communication and travel and short journeys and even buying things online. Mercury is connected to commerce. Like, things might go slower. Things might not work as easily or go as quickly as you want them to. And you might feel impatient with that. We always feel impatient in Mercury retrograde, but especially in Aries, there can be an impatience there. So really just setting yourself up to have some space around having more time to do things. And quite frankly, the beginning and the end of the Mercury retrograde are the slowest times. Right in the middle of the retrograde, last 3 weeks, Mercury is moving at a pretty fast pace. So, just make space for it in your life.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be scary.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So next kind of lunar chapter for us, we're going to do these 4 main phases and talk about the, kind of the astrology, is we've got the first quarter moon in Cancer on the 24th, which is again a Saturday. And so the quarter moon phase is halfway in between the new moon and the full moon. And so when you look in the sky at the moon during the quarter moon phase, it's half lit, it's half light, half dark. And having just had the equinox earlier that week, like that equinox energy of equal day and light, that's the energy of a quarter moon. It's equal, light and dark. It's kind of similar to that. The other thing that happens with quarter moons is the relationship between the sun and the moon is a little bit of tension called a square in astrology. And so sometimes feel a little itchy, feel a little bit of like frustration or a little bit of challenges or something you have to figure out around quarter moons. So we're going to have it in Cancer, and the moon in Cancer is a water moon. Cancer can get a little sensitive around the emotions. And so we're going to want to really take good care of ourselves this weekend and do really like nurturing things, because Cancer is all about nourishment and nurturing and feeling comfortable and safe and cozy and things like that. So we want to set yourself up. Can do something nice like make really delicious food for yourself, or even share that with people that you love, people you want to hang around with and make you feel good and you feel like connected to on a really kind of deep level. Feel your feelings. Don't stuff them away, except for when you're eating your chocolate. But what else can we do over the weekend? What do you think, Katie?
Like cozy up in a warm spot and watch a movie, maybe.
Yeah.
And this is Saturday, March 24th. You're talking about, right? Okay.
Yes. Half moon in Cancer. Yeah, because there is a tense little aspect that day where the sun is going to square Mars. And again, like as I just said, like squares are just a little bit of tension. So it's really going to be nice just to soften and relax and stay cozy, stay comfortable, and watch out for crabbiness. Because that's like the dirt on Cancer is like crabby, like, I'm a Cancer rising. So, I can definitely be crabby and just like, but yeah, watch your favorite movie or watch your favorite, like binge out on if you feel like it. And again, like follow what works for you. This is just a suggestion. You might want to make a big meal and have a bunch of people over, and that might feel really good to you. Or you might want to like just veg out and watch your favorite TV show, binge on a series. What would you? Okay, what would you watch? What's your favorite, movie or TV show? Do you have one
for TV? Like anything. I just love like Korean television and Swedish television.
Oh my God, that's so great. Where do you find these things besides being in the country?
I mean, Netflix will have it all.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's comfortable about that for you? Because Cancer is about like finding comfort. Like, what is it? Like, do you?
I mean, especially Korean TV. It's very, I don't know. It's so comforting. I mean, Asia is like home to me. So, and Koreans are so good at TV. Oh my God.
Well, Asia's like home to you, and like Cancer is so much about home. That's like, so it is. That's perfect. That's it right there. So what makes you feel like home, whatever that is, and that's going to look different for everybody, right?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So like homey foods, like comfort foods, like eat comfort foods, stay at home, be with your loved ones.
Eat mashed potatoes all weekend. Carb out. You have my permission to carb out. Unless that doesn't bring you comfort.
What's your favorite comfort food?
I love potatoes, actually. I think, French fries. Fries are so good. Or even roast potatoes. But I love chocolate.
And we recommended in our last Moonshine episode too, there was one weekend that we recommended to make chocolate specifically. And we put up 2 recipes. You tried one of them, right?
Well, I tried the recipe that you shared.
I need to make your recipe.
Yeah. Yours is really good. It was really good. All I had was baking chocolate, which was unsweetened, but I had sweetened condensed coconut milk. So it worked out perfectly. Yeah. It was really good. There's only 3 of them left. I have a high tolerance for chocolate. It's true. I'm just gonna eat it and eat it and eat it. Yeah. So cozy up or make a meal or whatever makes you feel like home.
That sounds so lovely. I love that.
To do.
What about the third chapter? Third chapter is full moon.
Full moon. And we're going to have this. It's the second full moon in March. So people are going to freak out and be like, it's a blue moon.
The second blue moon of the year.
Yeah. So it just means what that means is 2 full moons in a month. And also that means February didn't have a full moon. February just had a new moon smack in the middle. So all the full moons, they weren't in February. They were in January and March, not all of them, but 4 of them. And this is going to be a full moon in Libra. It's on a Saturday, the 31st. And in general, like Libra is a really lovely full moon. It's, Libra is ruled by Taurus, who, by the way, the day before the full moon, Venus moves into Taurus. Venus, did I say the full moon is ruled by Taurus? Because that was wrong. The full moon is ruled by Venus, the goddess. She rules Taurus and Libra. That's like her hangout places. Okay.
Got it.
And so she's like been in Aries for a while, but she moves into Taurus right before the full moon in Libra. So she goes into a sign that is her home turf before the full moon that is like her full moon. So there is a very beautiful Venusian kind of like harmonious, like loving kind of vibe with the full moon that we can tune into. And there's an underbelly, as with everything. There's always an underbelly. No, we have this kind of a tension with this Mars and Saturn conjunction in Capricorn, making a little bit of tension with the full moon. So what that might look is to bring up some friction or struggles, power struggles, friction, crankiness, irritability kind of stuff. And so really going to be inviting in the softening any rigidity, right? And like trying to lean into that Venus energy and to navigate if you find yourself in a situation where you're the one who's irritable or somebody's being irritable with you. It's like, you don't have to overcompensate, but like, that's like a Libra shadow side. Like, oh no, you're right. No. Like, nothing's wrong. Of course, like trying to keep everything perfect. That's impossible, but you can soften, right? That's an authentically, genuinely lovely thing to do, is to soften, try to soften something and dissolve any resistance to what's happening and try to find a place of balance within yourself to be able, or even neutrality, to be able to meet a situation.
Right. And Venus is all about beauty too, right?
Oh yeah.
Beautiful
things and like any kind of beauty rituals could be really supportive to make yourself feel better. Go to the spa if you want, but you can do spa things at home, like make face masks or in fact, here's another recipe because I'm in my 50s now and my skin is changing and I'm like, my skin is so dry. And honestly, I've been drinking too much coffee, which is very dehydrating. So I've been like experimenting with face masks for moisture. And one that I made the other day that I really liked was avocado and honey and coconut oil.
Oh yeah.
And it tasted really good too. So, because, when you're putting it on your face, it kind of, and you really want to be able to eat the body care that you use, for toxin wise. And it felt, when I washed it off my skin, skin just felt like so soft and rejuvenated. It felt really good.
Wow. It sounds like you could like blend up half and make a little pudding and then the other half and put it on your face, eat some, wear some.
Oh, you know what you could do too? With the half for your pudding, you could add in some cacao or cocoa powder and you can make a little mousse.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Delicious.
Have you had an avocado chocolate mousse before?
Yes, it's the best.
So good.
Yeah. I'll post a recipe up for that in case anyone is interested. So we've got Kristina's face mask, the avocado mousse, and I'll share my favorite mask. I really like working with clays, but they kind of tend to be kind of drying and make your skin feel funky and tight when they dry. So I like to mix like a green clay with coconut milk. And it makes it super hydrating, nice and fatty and yummy smelling.
But pulling out the like impurities and things like that. Oh, that's really nice. I love coconut.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, well, like coconut oil, coconut milk. All our recipes have one or the other in them. So.
Okay, so for that March 31st full moon in Libra.
Yeah.
Pick out your favorite beauty rituals. Beauty
rituals and soften. So fierce compassion, infinite love, rose quartz, a bath with Epsom salts and being outside is always really helpful for me when I get really tense, is to go for a walk or really finding that harmony within yourself, like doing what you need to bring yourself back into a harmonious place. And sometimes that, even though Libra is really about relating, it's a very relational sign. Sometimes you need space in order to be able to relate in a more kind way. So even if you need to take space, that's okay. You don't have to hang out with other people just because it's a Libra full moon.
and then after the full moon, what happens after that full moon?
That's it. No, that's the end of the story. No, let's see. The last kind of lunar chapter in the lunar cycle is the last quarter moon. And again, it's a half moon, halfway in between the full moon and the new moon this time. So while the first quarter is about kind of building the energy, the last quarter is about like letting go of the energy. And so it's a really always, no matter what sign or aspects, quarter moons, last quarter moons, that last week of the lunar cycle is a really nice time to kind of let go and clear out and clean up. You know, I often find myself doing things like cleaning out a closet or organizing a bookshelf or going through my inbox in quarter moon times. And I don't even like plan it. It just naturally happens. So that could be a really nice time to clear out. It is in Capricorn. And as I mentioned, Mars is hanging out in Capricorn. Let me pull up that chart. Hold on. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Mars is there. Saturn is there. The moon will be there. Pluto's there. And Vesta, which is the goddess of the sacred flame, has also moved into Capricorn. So all of a sudden we have like all this Capricorn energy, which can be very serious and very strategic. And so you had this really great idea for, I think, because you're a business person. I mean, I'm a business person too, but you have a bigger business. So you think in financials and quarterlies. What was your idea about this weekend?
Yeah, well, just because Capricorn is such a like planner, right? And legacy sign that you could, either like do some vision boarding if you're into visual, or plan your second quarter of the year. So the April, May, June.
Perfect.
And really get focused in on what it is that you're going to be focusing on for second quarter.
Oh, I love that. And with like that releasing energy, and with Mars and Capricorn, it's like letting go of distractions. With that Mars and that Saturn is like, that's really about focus and clearing out, so anything that's excess, that's just kind of, distracting you, or like you're kind of wasting your time on, especially in that anywhere in your life. But if you're doing around business, just like really letting go of it. And something that could really support that would be taking a social media break. Something I've yet to do as I wag my finger. But just like, or, just allowing yourself to prioritize the big vision and clear out what gets in the way of that for you, wherever that is in your life. It can show up in so many different ways. So I think that would be a nice way to use that waning moon energy in Capricorn. And then on the 15th of the month of April, Mercury's going direct. So just, it really is only 3 weeks. And then, so it's like this entire lunar cycle, almost the whole lunar cycle, Mercury's retrograde. But at the very end, Mercury goes direct. And so that Mercury going direct in this dark moon time, right before the new moon, Mercury's moving really slow whenever Mercury stations retrograde or direct. And with the dark of the moon, new moon time can feel low energy. So really like the end of this lunar cycle, 15th, 16th, 17th, just taking space, making time, downtime, rest, rejuvenate, and allow yourself to replenish, so that when that new moon in Aries comes, that you'll, be fresh, feeling more fresh around what you're kind of wanting to work with for the next lunar cycle.
Wow. Awesome. So we're going to post all of those notes, like an outline of all of the details and weekend rituals and recipes and everything we recommended on the blog post for this podcast. Anything else you want to add, Kristina?
Well, I just think that I'm wondering if there is an elixir that would support that last quarter moon thing that we were talking about, that like visioning and getting focused.
We have this incredible flower elixir called shell ginger. And literally its job is to help you see things into reality. So like to visualize them, and then it's almost like understanding how the energetics of that work when you see something and then seeing it into being.
I love it. So that's really cool, because you're starting with the Pisces moon, right? Very visionary, kind of dreamy. And then that last quarter moon in Capricorn, like what do you actually need to do to bring your dream and your vision into form? Perfect. That's good. Awesome. Yay.
Well, thank you all for joining us for the second episode of Moonshine. We're coming at you every new moon of every month with a forecast, a lunar forecast by Kristina Wingeier, intuitive astrologer out of California. And we so love doing this. So
we love it. Yay! See you next time.
Thank you so much for being here.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Flowerlounge. I'm Katie Hess, and we'll be releasing a new podcast every Wednesday. If you like what you heard, or you know someone who might be touched by our conversation, share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe. To find out what your favorite flowers mean about you, take the quiz at LOTUSWEI.com.